The USPS is not a business. The USPS is viewed favorably by 91% of Americans despite billions in losses annually. It's a service. It doesn't lose money. It costs money. No one says the military loses $750 billion a year. And a constitutional one. It is literally in the Constitution, and not even as an amendment like the 4th, but a plain full original article in the US Constitution. I don't know if you've realized this yet, but most Americans haven't read the Constitution and have no idea what it actually says, except that it says something about free speech and guns. Also, the military loses $750 billion a year. It says it has the power to establish post offices. It doesn't say it has to. I'm all for USPS BTW. I think a for-profit mail delivery would not be a good idea. And the only reason is losing money is because the Republican Congress passed a law in 2006 to force them to pre-fund its benefits for 75 years in advance. This is even for employees even on the payroll now. No agency or company has this burden. Is a strategy to break it and privatize it, and now to disrupt the vote. In 2006, Congress passed a law to require the USPS to pre-fund 75 years worth of retiree health benefits in the span of 10 years, a cost of approximately $110 billion. Although the money is intended to be set aside for future post office retirees, the funds are instead being diverted to help pay down the national debt. No other private enterprise or federal agency is required to pre-fund retiree health benefits on a comparable timetable. What's the argument again? The Constitution was written so long ago, we can't use their rules by today's standards. Wait, you want to take away my guns? That's in the Constitution. LOL, I can't count the number of times people have said both of these things to me. You're going to upset the people, a ton of them, who don't know the Constitution consists of anything other than amendments. Not to mention it would make money if it wasn't forced to spend money on 50 years of health and retirement benefits for employees, some who probably haven't been born yet. Not true. Sir Karen is a scholar, and apparently there is a paragraph about not wearing a mask in public. It's the Santa Claus. What's the Constitution? LMAO, like America follows the Constitution, ha ha ha. Constitution only says Congress has the power to create the post office. It doesn't require Congress to do so. A constitutional inefficiency? The USPS would make money if Congress would let it. It's quite profitable to the tune of billions of dollars a year. They had cash reserves they were planning on using to modernize their fleet with electric vehicles, but Congress made sure to ruin that plan when they forced them to pre-fund 75 years of pension plans for all their employees, a requirement which would put most companies out of business. Yet it's always overlooked that Republicans make the post office pay for something like 70 years of pensions up front for their staff, which you might think is altruistic until you realize it's so the post office doesn't make any money, so they can use the talking point it doesn't make any money. Another example of the rat fuck is making the system not work so they can claim the system doesn't work. Government is not a business. This is the most backward result of Republican and ultra-right-wing think tank garbage to infiltrate the psyche of millions. The goal of government is not to make money. The role of government is to provide services for citizens, at a fair cost to everyone. If you spread the cost of the services across the population, they are palatable and doable without running these budgets with massive debt. Military-industrial complex keeps us spending almost $1 trillion a year, so we're always safe from the boogeyman. This and many more problems exist with how we allocate our tax dollars. Over here in Italy, the post offices, of which there are hundreds of locations throughout the country, offer banking services, loans, cell phone plans, bill pay, and even sell a few random products like books in addition to postal services. Not sure if they turn a profit, but they have a hell of a better chance at doing it than the USPS. Glad somebody said it. No, it wouldn't. It is too cheap to send mail, and they treat their workers better than Amazon does. It's not supposed to make money though. Congress should ensure it keeps getting funding. It doesn't need to, nor should it, make money. It needs to break even. It should be run as a proper non-profit business. Well said. I get so sick of people putting down the post office. It's an honorable way to earn a living, and they provides necessary service. Some rich fucks just want to abscond with all their equipment and either sell it off or take it over. No one says the military loses $750 billion a year. I say that Yep, we overspend on the military like nobody's business. We could have that and still be better equipped than any other country by a long shot. But think of all those ridiculous contracts and laundered money that the high UPS would miss out on. And it's about damn time they started pulling their weight around here. Our next imperialist adventure should be profitable. I'm gonna start saying that. Think of all the money the military could make if they were allowed to charge the people they bomb. Could become a huge profit center for us. You should consider rephrasing it then, tongue sticking out. Apparently a lot of people are unaware of the financial burden put on the post office so that it fails on purpose, such as having to pre-fund retirement pension by 75 years, and treating it like a piggy bank. Why wouldn't it be viewed favorably? I get my mail. I can track any packages I'm expecting online. I'm pretty satisfied with the service the USPS provides. Another example of a service that, if it didn't already exist, conservatives would think was the most extremist socialist bullshit they'd ever heard. You want the government to subsidize billions of packages and letters a year rather than leaving it to lucrative private companies like FedEx? How are we ever going to pay for that? Wait until conservatives hear about libraries. The government doesn't subsidize the USPS. I'm not even American and I know that. The USPS always turned a profit, and don't get any federal funding whatsoever. The billions in losses is because Republican Congress passed a bill making USPS the only company in the entire country, and also the only federal agency as well, that needs to create a fund to pay the health care costs of the employees in the future. USPS has to now put money into a fund and let it stay there for decades. That is why USPS is losing money. This was created to bankrupt the USPS on purpose, because until then, USPS always made a profit, and if it didn't had this constraints Republicans put on it, it would have turned a profit last year's, and the year before that, and the year before. FedEx makes money as a middleman for a lot of packages that end up going through USPS anyways. And FedEx sucks so bad. I cringe any time a package is being sent by them, except the USPS isn't subsidized by the government. I believe it's technically a government-owned and run business, but that should not be a reason to get rid of it. If we can throw billions of dollars at defense every year we can afford USPS, and that's from a veteran. If you could see the nonsense the military wastes their money on for military non-combat related things. Edit, can't get a good source for the first line to prove/disprove. It is not a government-owned and run business. It's a constitutionally mandated department of the US government. It is no more a business than the military or the National Park Service. It wouldn't even lose money if it didn't have pension savings requirements several orders of magnitude more severe than any other business or government agency, designed specifically to hamper their performance. Crazy how we spend a shit ton on the military and the troops still get the most cheap things possible. I've always marveled at the fact that you could mail a letter for the cost of a stamp either across town or to northern Alaska. I understood, even as a child, the wisdom in this. If private groups take over, this will change. All the well-connected corporations will want the money-making urban areas and will shun the rural areas. Strange that Trump supporters in rural areas don't realize this. Excuse me, 720B on military, how much money do you guys have to blow? I mean, we're like $25 trillion in debt, so not that much actually. We're the largest military spender in the entire world by a long shot. You could add together the next top 5 military budgets and not even come close to ours. That might sound mind-blowing, but most of that money goes towards buying useless shit from the companies who build tanks or missiles, and then they sit in warehouses and armories for years never to be used because we gotta keep putting money in the pockets of rich warmongers. Most planes, US Air Forces. Second most planes, US Navy. Third most planes, US Ground Forces. Isn't it a little strange when your ground forces have more planes than literally any one other air force in the world? I dunno, but couldn't our different divisions, I don't know, share all of it? To be fair, USPS was completely self-sufficient before the US government actively started sabotaging it. To be fair, USPS was completely self-sufficient before the Republican Party US government actively started sabotaging it. Fixed it for you. As a European, I'm surprised more people in America are in favor of paying tax for a postal service than a decent healthcare system. Edit, apparently the USPS is not funded by tax, but I still find it strange how more people are in favor of a government-owned postal service than a good healthcare system. The post office isn't paid for by tax money but by itself like the profit from stamps, but Congress ruled that the post office can't innovate, that's why they are on the decline financially. People have already gotten to experience how great the post office is, and anti-post office rhetoric is rather recent, so it hasn't really sunk in. We've had decades of heavy well-funded anti-healthcare propaganda though. Despite that, of course most Americans do support it as well. It's just only like 70% of people, or I think a bit more if you sneakily ask, so they don't realize the thing they want is something the man on TV told them to not want. The postal system had to be funded by the federal government. This is a U.S. Constitution article. Postal Service has to provide the service in each and every part of the U.S. territory, even the most remote and non-profitable place. Given the size and overall low density of the country, it is important that any American can have access to the service. Propaganda is a hell of a drug, as if it's a choice. Economy isn't The Economist's strong suit. I thought The Economist was one of the leading publications in terms of unbiased information. Has it changed? Every time I see a tweet from them it makes me think of the millennials are ruining the diamond industry meme. Economy isn't The Economist's strong suit. Technically, the US military makes a lot of money, stealing, applying the US hegemony, bullying countries. Do people not get that they pay for postage? No one says the military loses $750 billion a year. Maybe people should start saying that. People shouldn't be saying that government services lose money. By that logic we could say that more money is lost in healthcare than the military. Well, the Postal Service actually accomplishes something on a daily basis. Most of the military just prance around acting tough. When you control the mail, you control information, which is why the UK government sold theirs off, and they're doing the same with our health service. Never underestimate a money-grabbing wanker. They will get rid if they think they can make some lovely share money. Maybe we should talk about the military like that. To me, if nothing else, the USPS is an insurance policy. Having a logistics system that has the capacity to reach literally every single building in the United States of America every single day is valuable. When Trump was on his kick about organizing the military for the purpose of vaccine distribution, I just thought to myself, why? We have an in-place logistics system that is super fucking efficient, and touches everyone. Once the government has the vaccines, they could have it in the hands of the entire nation in literally a day or two. Or imagine there was a need to distribute arms in the event of some sort of invasion. Most Americans can afford, and many already have their own guns, so we should stop funding the socialized military. Do most Americans have jets? I think that is what the Second Amendment is about, having a well-trained and regulated militia so you don't have to spend so much on the military. What happens to the billions in pension and health money if GOP gets their wish and post office gets privatized? What happens to all of the people who live in rural areas that the USPS loses money on delivery? Except the military actually loses money, like literally. The Pentagon doesn't know where $22 trillion of it went over the last few decades. This isn't true. The United States Post Office is supposed to be self-sustaining. They are supposed to pay for itself through stamps and other delivery costs. The military loses $750 billion a year. The military loses how much a year? Didn't you hear? Trump wants to start renting them out to other countries. It wasn't losing money until Bush made it lose money on purpose by forcing prepaying benefits for 75 years. LOL. What? The USPS only loses money because the government has been intentionally crippling it for years. If the government allowed it, the USPS could be making a profit by the end of the month. It would literally be that easy. I'm willing to bet money that if you calculate the economic benefit of USPS, then estimate the tax revenue from that economic benefit, it would more than cover the amount of public funding USPS gets. It'd be like saying lighthouses lose money annually. They're certainly helpful. I'm not sure how helpful in this day and age of electronics, but apparently they're still in use. But just because they cost money to maintain doesn't mean they're a failing service. Also, August 7th was National Lighthouse Day. The U.S. Postal Service has some apparently ridiculous funding requirements for their retirements and is tasked with serving low population areas, so they shouldn't be expected to be cash cows. Government isn't a business. Goddamn libraries are money pits too. Apparently people don't understand how stamps work. I know this is gonna be downvoted like crazy, but the United States Postal Service actually receives no tax dollars for operating expenses and relies on the sale of postage, products, and services to fund its operations. This is partly why FedEx, UPS, and Amazon use the USPS to deliver local parcels, despite having the resources to deliver it themselves. The USPS is dying. They are severely underfunded, understaffed, and receive no government assistance to continue operating. Sure, they have an annual revenue of $70 billion, but their annual expenses exceed their revenue by nearly $4 billion annually. This is why you receive so many junk ads in your mailbox. Is BC that postage keeps the mail carrier service barely treading water. People sending flat mail such as letters has dropped by 31% in the last decade, which is a massive revenue loss. And due to lack of funding they've even closed 4%, 1,300 plus, post offices and have had to let go of 11% of their total workforce, 80,000 employees, while trying to expand more delivery points, which shot up by over 8 million locations. The USPS had requested a relief bailout, like many other dying capitalistic businesses, and was frankly told no. They were told they could open a loan or have nothing at all, and Trump said he would veto any relief effort to bail out the Postal Service. We as a nation could easily save the USPS, if it's not too late, by privatizing the USPS and opening them up to international markets and make the playing field level and equal with UPS and FedEx. The PO was very profitable pre-06, then Congress mandated that they prepay 75 years worth of retiree health care benefits over the span of 10 years. It was literally an attempt to bankrupt the PO. Republicans, you dumb fuck, you do realize USPS would turn a huge profit for the gov if there wasn't a mandate from Congress for USPS to pre-fund future retirements for 75 years in the future? Exactly. I had a discussion with someone who thinks public transit should be eliminated by saying the city should subsidize car purchases. Well, it's not for profit, it's a service to thousands of people who take the bus. It's a lifeline for disabled people, immigrants, people who don't drive, women, poor people, etc. Also, by taking the bus, you're helping the environment by having one less car on the road. Stop fucking phrasing it the wrong way. Frame it properly. The post office was vastly successful financially, until Republicans stepped in to make them pay out 75 years worth of future benefits, or a few $1 billion, at once. I keep seeing that the bill had bipartisan support. Is that true or no? Exactly this. People who think the USPS should be run like a company are completely out of touch with why it exists in the first place. Now what if we give USPS guns too? This just happened in my town over the weekend, so it's fresh on my mind and I'm feeling a soft spot for postal workers right now. A 19-year-old valedictorian jogging in her neighborhood was savagely attacked by 5 pit bulls and would have likely lost her life if not for the heroic actions of a USPS worker spraying the dogs with mace and taking the victim to safety and giving her first aid. Look at what a huge amount of good can be done by a postal worker with a simple can of mace. I am neither advocating for giving postal workers guns or vilifying pit bulls by sharing this story. Just sharing an anecdote. We've looped all the way back to the machine gun wielding mailman stereotype of the 90s. It operates as a business to self-fund, however Republicans sabotaged that structure years ago by requiring fully funded pensions including for new hires. Now they're gutting it completely. The American military budget is farcical. We could solve every problem on Earth and expand into space with what is being wasted on the military. The US makes a ton of money from the military through a process known as imperialism. I've got some literature to read if you'd like to learn more. The USPS loses money because of a bill introduced by Republicans many years ago, that requires the USPS to prepay the pension of any employees, and it's the only government entity that has to do this. If it wasn't required, they'd actually turn a healthy profit every year. The military's loss of $750 billion per year is weapons manufacturers' gain. DoD spends $10 billion on munitions from weapon manufacturers. But that's money that could go towards more corporate bailouts. Think of the yachts 400 people can only have 7 of. I do think USPS needs a refresh. No reason for 6-day delivery. Maybe transition to cluster boxes as much as possible, instead of door-to-door delivery. Having someone walk a postal route 6 days a week is fucking ridiculous, especially considering that 90% of mail is bulk rate garbage. Really, it's more like 98% for me. Most new developed areas have switched from door-to-door to the community boxes. Only FedEx/UPS/Amazon/etc. packages ever get left at the doors anymore. I hated it at first, having to walk a block to get my mail in the rain sometimes, but I've come to like it. Saves time and money for the postal service, and it forces me to walk, even just a tiny bit. Thanks for watching. If you could like, subscribe and comment best Reddit stories for more Reddit videos.